Hi guys, welcome back. Today I have for you an anti-makeup haul. So my last video was a drugstore makeup haul and today is an anti-haul. That was not planned, but that's just kind of how it worked out. But today we're going to be talking all about some new makeup releases and why I'm not going to be purchasing some of them. Quick disclaimer, I have to always mention this in every single one of these videos. Please do not be offended. I know that on the internet people get so easily offended and they try to switch people's words around. It's just makeup at the end of the day. It's just for fun, and just because I talk about something that I'm not going to purchase for one reason or another, it doesn't mean that I hate the brand, doesn't mean that the brand is horrible. It just means I don't want to purchase that makeup product. We're going to keep an open mind over here on this channel because we only like positive vibes over here. Okay, so I have a bunch of screenshots here on my phone from this weekend. I was on Instagram on Trend Moods page, which I love that page so much. They do such a good job at keeping up with new makeup releases, and that's how I always know what's hot in the makeup world. There's so many makeup releases that I'm just like super excited. I can't wait to order them. I'm like on the website the minute that they launch, and then there's other things where I'm like, pass, you know, like not everything gets me really excited. And especially now that I have so much makeup, I'm really mindful of what I purchase because I just don't want things to go to waste. I don't like to hoarder makeup even though I have a lot. I'm just trying not to be wasteful with makeup, and I just don't want to purchase something just because it's new. I want to purchase it because I feel like, okay, I'm actually going to use that, or it's going to be beneficial for me to review it on my channel. Does that make sense? I really hope you guys enjoy this video. As always, don't forget to grab a snack and let's get on with the anti-haul. So I am going to be looking down. I'm not being rude, I promise. I just have all the screenshots here on my phone. My case, by the way, I get so many questions about this case. I got this at my mall, but you can find cases like this Amazon, Best Buy, like anywhere. And my pop socket is also from Best Buy, which I actually don't recommend because it was not gluing properly. I had to literally super glue this. Anyways, okay, the first thing that we have here is from Neutrogena. So they have some single shadows, matte and shimmery finishes, prep and correct primers, Hydra Boost, illuminators, and foundations. And let me just say, Neutrogena has never been a brand that intrigued me. I've purchased probably maybe like 2 or 3 things from them in my entire lifetime of me ever buying makeup. Even when I was younger and first getting into it, it just never really intrigued me. I thought their shade range was always awful, and I just don't find them very interesting. To me, they're kind of like Almay, and I always felt like Neutrogena was very pricey. So growing up, for me, honestly, I was always purchasing e.l.f. and Wet n Wild because that's really what I could afford at the time. But like even now, I'm just like, $13 for something that I'm not probably going to use all the time is a little bit much for me. So I'm just not intrigued by the brand, and the stuff is just kind of very bland to me. I don't know, like packaging isn't really like va va voom. The stuff is kind of just like there, in my opinion. It's just not really a brand that I love. Let me know what you guys think. I don't know, does anybody else feel that way about Neutrogena or Almay, or is it just me? Okay, next up we have some Wet n Wild stuff. So they have a Mega Jelly face primer and a Mega Jelly highlighter. Let me just say, I am so over this jelly trend. I just don't like it. I've tried a few things from the jelly lines of some brands and I'm just not impressed. I don't like the way that they feel on my skin. I don't like how messy it is. I just don't like them. I would rather use just a regular powder highlight or even like a loose highlight versus using a jelly. I'm over it. I just don't like it, and I think it's kind of a cool concept, but in general, I'm just like over it. And you guys know I'm obsessed with Wet n Wild. It's not just Wet n Wild. I've seen a couple other brands do this whole jelly highlighter thing, and I feel like this has been out for probably like 2 years or so, like the jelly trend. And ever since it came out, it was just one of those things where I'm like, I'm not interested in that. Like, just give me a regular, super buttery, intense powder highlight and I'm good to go. And just give me a regular primer. I don't need all the extra stuff. So I feel like if I were to purchase these things, it would just be literally for the video, and then I probably would never use it again. So it's just very wasteful. I just don't feel the need to do that. MAC Cosmetics. To be honest, I forget about MAC a lot. Unless they pop up on my feed, it's just not really a brand anymore where I'm like drooling over it. Like when I was in high school, I was drooling over MAC. I loved it. Anytime I wanted to splurge, it would be on MAC. That's all that I ever wanted. But now I feel like there's just so many other brands that MAC, at least for me, it just gets overlooked. And they're expensive. I mean, it's not a drugstore brand. It's also not super high-end like Tom Ford or something like that. But you know, on average, it is a little bit more pricey. So I would rather use that money on something else if I am going to be splurging on something high-end. For me, MAC just isn't it, and their collections for me are very overwhelming. It's just a little too much. I feel like they always have something new. I mean, this packaging looks pretty cool, but I don't really love collections that are just like very like Disney themed or just like fantasy themed. I'm just not into collections like that. There are certain things that I don't mind when collections are built off of, but when it comes to like fantasy stuff, it's just not my cup of tea personally. And for me, MAC is just hasn't been very impressive for me for the past couple of years. I think the last MAC item that I purchased was probably their Fix Plus, and that was back in the summer. It was like the one with the glitter in it, which it didn't even have any shimmer or glitter. It was just like honestly like regular Fix Plus. But that was the last thing that I purchased, and other than that, I really don't purchase MAC anymore, like ever. I have a few MAC lipsticks in my collection, but that's about it, honestly. Okay, we have some things from Melt Cosmetics. So these eyeshadows actually look really beautiful. I'm just not really into their packaging. Like, I just prefer a palette. That's just me personally. I have heard really good things about Melt's eyeshadows. I've actually been wanting to try them. They have this one green eyeshadow palette that I was like eyeing for a while, but then I was like, I talked myself out of it. These eyeshadows look really beautiful. I'm just, again, not a fan of the packaging. I know it's very unique and it's different than just a traditional palette, but packaging for me is a big deal and it isn't. But if I'm gonna be spending a lot of money on something, I want the packaging to be just how I want it, because so I'm pretty picky when it comes to packaging on higher end stuff. And I know Melt Cosmetics, again, isn't like a super luxury brand, but it's obviously more expensive than drugstore. So for me, I just don't want little tiny eyeshadows. I want like a big eyeshadow palette if I'm gonna be dropping some money on it. So I don't even know how much these are, to be honest. Let's look really quick. Okay, so it says you get the split pans and then you get 3 lip products, $78. Yeah, no, for me, that's out. I'm sorry, I don't want packaging like that for that price. Like, it's just a no for me. So for that reason is why I'm out. Hourglass Cosmetics. I think I've tried the Hourglass Vanish Stick Foundation, and they're actually coming out with the Vanish Liquid Foundation, which I actually really want to try. But this blush, I'm just not about it. I'm getting to the point, I guess I'm really a drugstore girl at heart, but I'm getting to the point where there's certain things that I feel like are just not worth buying, or should I say worth splurging over, and I feel like blush has become one of them for me. I have so many amazing affordable blushes, not just at the drugstore, but just like in general. I'm just like, when I see a blush that is so expensive, like this is $38, I'm like, really? Like, for a blush? And for that color that I feel like is kind of just like, well, for me personally, not really my kind of color. It's just like, it's not even worth it. There's only, I feel like, certain things that are definitely worth the splurge, and if I ever tell you guys a high-end product is worth it, I am 100% swearing that on my life because I really love drugstore makeup products. So when I am actually telling you guys that this, for example, that this is worth $30, then I am 100% honest, and I totally mean that, because for me, even, it takes a lot for me to spend a lot of money on a lot of makeup that it's high end, because I know that there's so many good alternatives at the drugstore. But for me, that blush is just out. Colorpop. I love Colorpop so much, but they kind of remind me of MAC in a way. They just come out with so much new stuff all the time that it's just so overwhelming. I don't even know where to begin when I'm going on their website. I'm really just going for what I want, because they have so much that it's like, oh my gosh, how do I begin? What do I get? Like, and they come out with so much, even like constantly, that I just feel like it's very, very overwhelming. I do feel like their stuff is very beautiful. The stuff that I have tried, I've been very impressed with for the most part. There's some things that didn't really work for me, like their concealers are my favorite. A lot of their stuff, like their lip products, their face products, besides their concealer and everything, have been really, really good to me and my skin, but damn, they're overwhelming. This palette does look really pretty. To be honest, this is actually something that I would purchase because it's different than what I have in my collection, but I just wanted to mention Colorpop in general because they come out with so much new stuff. It's so funny to me when people will message me and ask me for Colorpop recommendations, and I'm just like, I don't know, because I do, like I said, love their lip products and their brow pencil. That's probably like my 2 favorite things from them. But other than that, I'm not the person to ask when it comes to recommendations from them, because whew, they have a lot of stuff and I haven't tried everything from them. I should probably do an updated, like a full face of Colorpop. And maybe I can do that so we can test out some things from them, because whew, too much. Okay, we have some makeup brushes here. I saw these and I thought it was really interesting because I wasn't even like aware that Sigma was still coming out with new makeup brushes. So these are their new brushes. You have a 4D HD Precision brush, and then you have their P8 7 Edge Precision brush, and these are each $20, which I think is crazy. I've just gotten also to the point where I feel like there's so many great affordable makeup brushes that you can find from Elle, from Wet n Wild, from Real Techniques, from TJ Maxx, that you don't need to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on brush kits anymore. It's just not necessary. Even Amazon has like my favorite brush kit ever, which I talk about all the time on my channel, but there's only certain brushes that I really love that are high end. Probably my number one is the Anastasia number 18 brush, which is like a packer brush for all over your lid. That brush I think is like $18. Very expensive, but very worth it. I literally have 4 of those in my collection. But when it comes to just brush sets in general, oh yeah, BH Cosmetics. They have like awesome brushes out there that don't make you break the bank and that are really great quality. So for me, $20 a piece for just regular eye brushes is just a bit much. And I feel like even that's not very realistic for people who are just starting out. Like when I was first getting into makeup, I wanted Sigma brushes, but I couldn't afford them. So I'm like, what do I get? Like it's just a bit much. So I'm so happy that there are so many brands out here with great makeup brushes, because back in my time, a few years back, there was no such thing. Tarte Remix Natural Eyeshadow Palette. I don't love Tarte's eyeshadows. I don't know why. I just feel like the quality and the blendability is just not there for me. They're kind of chalky, especially their shimmers, and their mattes, you have to build them up. You actually get a lot of fallout with them, and I just don't love their formula. I used to really love the Tarte, I think it was called the Tarte and Bloom palette. I'm pretty sure I donated that just because I wasn't using it, and I'm like, why keep stuff that I'm not going to be using? Their eyeshadows for me are just not my favorite. I think for that price, like this palette is $24. First of all, it looks like an all shimmer palette, which I hate all shimmer palettes, me personally. I know that I have a lot of mattes, so I can always like mix mattes and shimmers, but whenever I'm doing tutorials, I really like to keep things as simple as possible for you guys, and I don't want to be dipping into 2, 3, 4 different eyeshadow palettes or even like single shadows or anything, because if you guys are trying to recreate something, I just want it to be very simple and easy, and I want you guys to feel like, okay, I can actually go out and buy this and not have to buy 5 or 4 different eyeshadow palettes. So that's why I don't love all shimmer palettes. Again, Tarte is one of those brands for me that is just very hit or miss. There's only a few things that I love, but some things I'm just like, ooh, pass. Okay, we have some Charlotte Tilbury. I see so many people raving about Charlotte Tilbury, and I'm just like, should I take the plunge? Should I do it? What do you guys think? I wanted to ask you because it's very expensive, and I don't know. I'm like, is it really worth it? So if you guys have any favorites from Charlotte Tilbury, let me know. But in general, it's just, it does not really intrigued me. Like this eyeshadow palette is $53, which I think is ridiculous. Honestly, like $53. That is crazy for 4 eyeshadows, and the shadows look very just like blah, like they don't look like anything crazy, and honestly they don't look like they would complement every single skin tone, which is also a concern for me. It just seems very like monotone, just very boring, the makeup. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe the products are amazing. If you guys, like I said, if you have any favorites, let me know, but the makeup is just not really intriguing to me, and when I look at the price, it makes it even less attractive. Like it's just no. Speaking of expensive, Visor, I think that's how you say it. What do you guys think of their eyeshadows? They are super expensive. This palette looks pretty, but I would rather buy that Colorpop palette that I just showed you versus this, because I feel like you can't go wrong with Colorpop shadows or just in general drugstore eyeshadows. There's so many great palettes out there that it's like, do I really want to spend that much money on one eyeshadow palette? I mean, it's ridiculous. I've been very disappointed with higher end eyeshadows so many times that I just always go back to drugstore stuff. And I know some people are probably annoyed by me talking about so much drugstore makeup. I've gotten comments about that saying that I talk about drugstore makeup too much, and I'm like, why would you not want to hear about it? It's like good stuff at a good price. I'm sorry if it can be a little overwhelming of me always talking about affordable things, but I mean, I'm a consumer at the end of the day as well, and I don't like to blow my money on things that are expensive just for the hell of it, especially if I can find a better alternative. And for me, eyeshadows have been that lately. There's some shadow brands that I genuinely love that are high-end, but it has to be like the right palette. Like I love some eyeshadows from NARS. I love Urban Decay shadows. I love, what's another brand that I really like? Anastasia and Huda Beauty. Those are probably like my top brands when it comes to expensive eyeshadows, but I've been disappointed with other brands and different palettes and stuff that are super expensive that I'm just like, no. Okay, we have some new stuff from Revlon. Revlon is another brand for me that at the drugstore, I kind of walk past it very often because it just doesn't really speak to me on another level. When I walk past, let's say even like CoverGirl, Wet n Wild, L'Oreal, Maybelline, I'm super intrigued to those brands and it just draws my attention. Revlon, I just walk right past it, and sometimes I have to go back and be like, oh, there's Revlon. They have a new collection. It's the Crystal Aurora collection. It looks just like plain Jane to me. Like it just doesn't look good. Not into the packaging, I'm not into the colors, I'm just not into it. I don't know. I do like their lipsticks. I love their Colorstay foundation. And what else do I like from Revlon? I believe I used to use their pressed powder before, but their collections, at least the ones that they've launched within the past like year or two, whatever, just not really a fan of. Okay, we have some Urban Decay brow stuff. To be honest, brows for me are boring. I don't love doing my brows, and I don't love buying new brow products. I already have my favorite brow products that I'm just like, I really don't need new brow stuff, but yeah, brows are boring. So when I saw this, I was even more bored. I was just like, I'm bored. And I feel like a lot of people can probably vouch and say that they have their go-to brow products already. So it's like when new brow products come out, it's just one of those things where it's not very exciting in the makeup world and it's not very intriguing, at least for me. Last but not least, we have some Natasha Denona. So she's coming out with a new concealer, and I believe she has a new foundation that is out already. I saw some people getting it in PR. Now, let me just say, I'm very turned off by Natasha Denona because I've spent $130 on one of her eyeshadow palettes last year and I was so disappointed. It was just not good quality. The shadows were just like lackluster, not super vibrant, and I just felt like I got so much better quality from $10 eyeshadow palettes versus that literally is like a full-on bill. So it just was super disappointing. So ever since then, I was just really turned off because it's like when you spend so much money on one product, it's like, I know not everything's gonna work for everybody, but I mean, so many people raved about her eyeshadows that I had really, really high hopes, but I got fallout. I had to build up a lot of my shades. It just wasn't really a great palette. And for that price, I would never, ever spend that much money again on an eyeshadow palette. Well, actually, let me not say never, but at least I don't want to. It was just a big turn off for me for the brand. And now I'm just kind of like very weary on what I spend my money on, and especially with Natasha Denona in general. So there's also so many new concealers that I'm just like, oh my gosh, how many full coverage concealers do we really need? I'm all about concealers and everything, but I feel like brands have just done that already, like JuicyJas, Huda Beauty, Tarte Shape Tape, Too Faced. Like, it's like, do we really need more full coverage concealers? And even at the drugstore, I feel like every drugstore brand is coming out with new drugstore full coverage concealers, and I'm just like, this is a lot. Anyways, that is it for this anti-makeup haul. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you've tried any of these products that I mentioned that I'm not gonna be purchasing. Maybe you can change my mind, I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for everything. I really hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you in a few days in my next video. Bye.